So, guys, I want to talk about something that's been pissing me off about AEW, and that's been Shane Taylor. That honestly, when I was at the AEW Death Before Dishonor show or Final Battle, whatever the one that they had at the Hammerstein Ballroom, that in my opinion, the biggest wrestler that stood out, the biggest wrestler that showed any promise was Shane Taylor because he instigated the crowd. He was talking about how they're a bunch of pussies and possibly nobody in the crowd has seen a pussy before. So the thing about Shane Taylor is that he has the thing that a lot of AEW stars lack, which is bravado, a really good voice, instigating the crowd. He kind of gets people amped up. And I do think it's a little unfortunate because you have MVP do that and you have MJF do that. But then you have Will Ospreay and Darby and other people do that on the babyface side. But there are a lot of people on the AEW roster who don't know how to make themselves big deals, how to kind of play to the crowd, how to get an emotion out of the crowd. And I really think that Shane Taylor really is somebody that they need to make dominant. And then the other thing about Shane Taylor is that he's a big body guy. If I'm correct, he was a former boxer and he's like 6 feet tall. He weighs like 300 pounds. He is a formidable force of nature. So I really think that there's two things that need to happen to Shane Taylor this year. Number one is that if you want to do the Von Erichs and Dustin versus Shane Taylor promotions, they should have a mini feud for the 6-man tag team titles. That's something that should happen. But I do not want that for Shane Taylor. He's been in Ring of Honor for too long. We need to graduate some people to the AEW main roster. So you can have Adam Cole and the Undisputed Kingdom, and then you can also have the Conglomeration, and you can also have the Death Riders, and you can also have Shane Taylor Promotions all go over the Trios Tag Team division. Because one of the biggest criticisms about AEW is when they had the Trios Tag Team titles, that what happened was a lot of their tag teams went into that division. And the problem is that when you do something like that, you have people do double duty, or you have someone like Dustin who is both a tag team and a Trios Tag Team champion. And also you do something where it does feel a little convoluted because when you have a champion defending two titles, like when you had MJF be a ROH tag team and the AEW world champion, sometimes, that leads to a bunch of problems really when you make somebody a double champion. Sometimes they can't do both that well really, or you are in a situation where you have to create storylines like them like taking on too much, or they get injured in one match and then they lose it in another match. So sometimes you run into predictable storylines. So you need a very discrete trios tag team division and a very discrete tag team division. And definitely for the trios AEW Trios Championships, I would want to see Shane Taylor in that, and I think he would do an excellent job. The other thing that I would say is that there are certain wrestlers that are believable double champions. MJF, absolutely. Because with MJF, the thing about him is that he has great performances. He had an hour-long match with Will Ospreay, and he could tell good stories, So it's believable that he would be a tag team champion and an AEW, world champion. You look at somebody like Pac, who was a trios and international champion. Like, he doesn't speak that much in the microphone. He doesn't talk about challenging himself or anything like that, really. So he's not a good example of a double champion. Another great example would be, Will Ospreay. He works very hard. He has like long endurance matches. So if he was a tag team and he held another title, it would be believable. So there's certain people that can pull off a double champion. And that's the thing that I want to talk about. That honestly, you have Daniel Garcia. So Daniel Garcia and Shane Taylor needs to be something. It got teased, but they really need to follow up with this. If you want a great collision feud, I would have Shane Taylor versus Daniel Garcia, and I would do something where they're kind of evenly matched. You see Daniel Garcia be this high endurance type of wrestler, never backing down, has the fight of a dog, fight of a pit bull, fight of a bulldog, like that, never give up. You have that Shane Taylor powerhouse type of thing, really. And you also have to do something where Shane Taylor actually wins, because another big problem is Shane Taylor gets discriminated against. He's a big man. And what do you see in AEW? If you are a big man, you usually lose to a smaller person. So they need to reestablish that big man can be dominant. He did that with the tag team division. but it's also logical. You know, somebody like Brian Cage should not be losing that much. Somebody like Shane Taylor should not be losing that much. If you're a big man, we have to get back to physics. And it's kind of proven that if the ratings are going down, you know, you have to change some philosophies. And so one of the philosophies in AEW has to be, if you're a big man, you need to you need to stand strong, really. And also, when I see Shane Taylor promotions, a lot of them just are a little confused. A lot of them are a little lost. And one of the reasons why they're like that is because they have no fucking directions. They're making the best out of every moment that they got. So why not do something like say, hey, Shane Taylor Promotions, give them a feud, give them a storyline, see what you can do for 6 months, really. Like, honestly, I think Shane Taylor versus Daniel Garcia would be a great match for AEW Grand Slam, because it's honestly like, you know, what other matches are going to have on the card that are compelling? That is a compelling match to me. And then you can do something like Shane Taylor actually wins, because it's like, you know, you give Daniel Garcia an obstacle. Then you do like maybe Shane Taylor versus John Morrison, or Shane Taylor versus Orange Cassidy, or Shane Taylor versus like another babyface, and you kind of work, or Anthony Bowens, you kind of work a little bit more on building more baby faces that are not part of factions, really, or like maybe, or like you need like maybe 10 babyface wrestlers on the AEW roster that can actually not be part of a faction. You may hire Matt Cardona, you may bring back Dalton Castle or a few other people, but you need to kind of say, you need to create a division of baby faces that are not part of factions. And I think you would do really, really good, but you can give Daniel Garcia an obstacle. You can do something like Daniel Garcia versus Shane Taylor, John Morrison versus Shane Taylor. You could do Billy Gunn or Anthony Bowens versus Shane Taylor, and then you eventually give it back to Daniel Garcia, and then you do something where the Death Riders get a little too cocky, the conglomeration or the Undisputed Kingdom take the trios titles off of them, and then you put Shane Taylor Promotions in that and make Shane Taylor as a double champion. There's a lot that you can do with Shane Taylor. Imagine Shane Taylor versus Samoa Joe, two bad motherfuckers. You know, that would be a really great match. But like I said, Shane Taylor has energy, he has instigation, he has motherfucking bravado. You have to utilize that shit. You have to utilize that shit. He can draw a lot of motherfucking money for AEW. He's very, very underutilized. You know, start using Shane Taylor correctly. And Daniel Garcia versus Shane Taylor would draw a lot of money. And Shane Taylor, you are a big, scary motherfucker. Scare Tony Khan. Do pull a CM Punk. Make him just make him be like, okay, pen the contract, this is gonna happen, or something's gonna happen to you. You may have to take things that far, my nigga, because you know what, Shane Taylor, you got a lot of potential. And you're right, everybody's right about you. You look like Suge Knight.